we always will have $20 billion around Berkshire. We will never be dependent on the kindness of strangers. It didn't work that well for Blanche Dubois either, but in any event, we don't count on bank lines. We don't count on anything. There will be some time in the next 100 years, and it may be tomorrow, and it may be 100 years from now, and nobody knows, where we cannot depend on anybody else to keep our own strength and to maintain our operations. And we spent too long building Berkshire to have that one moment destroy us. I mean, we lent money, as you probably know, to Harley Davidson at 15%. And we lent it at a time when short-term rates were probably 0.5%. Well, Harley Davidson is a fine company, but it, like Goldman Sachs and General Electric and a bunch of other companies, one of these Tiffany's, they needed, when you need cash, it's the only thing you need, and it's because other people aren't coming up with it. I've always said that, available cash or credit is a lot like oxygen, that you don't notice it, the lack of it, 90% of the time, but if it's absent, it's the only thing you notice. And we don't want to be in that position. So we will keep $20 billion. We will never go to sleep at night worrying about any event that's taken place that could hurt our ability to keep playing our game. And above $20 billion, we'll try to find ways to invest it intelligently. And so far, we've generally done it. I mean, right? We've always had something above that, but we've spent a fair amount of money so far this year. We'll probably spend more later in the year. So far, I feel we can get the cash out at reasonable returns. We never feel a compulsion to use it, though, just because it's there. Charlie?
I think we're very lucky to have these businesses that can employ a lot of new capital at very respectable rates. And if earlier in the history of Berkshire we didn't have such automatic opportunities, and now that we're so affluent, we really are way better off having these opportunities. It's a blessing. I mean, who would want to get rid of Mid-American and the Burlington Northern Railroad? Nobody in his right mind.
Has there been any discussion at your board meetings about a replacement for your partner, longtime friend, and co-chairman Charlie Munger? Has it been determined Berkshire will continue to be led by a similar dynamic duo? Two magnificent investor minds, each providing a unique point of view, have been a major reason the business has performed magnificently over the decades and has delighted the shareholders.
Well, Charlie is he's my canary in the coal mine. Charlie turned 90, and I find it very encouraging how well he's handling middle age. So I hope to be able to do the same thing myself. No, you raised a point which I hadn't thought about, but I'm a little sensitive now that you raised it. They always talk about replacing me, but they never talk about replacing Charlie. I do think it's very likely, incidentally, that whoever replaces me as CEO probably has, over the years, certainly develops. They'll never be able to develop another Charlie, but they'll develop somebody that they work with very closely. It's a great way to operate. Berkshire is better off because the two of us have worked together than if either one of us had been working individually. There's no question about that. But I do think, we saw it with Roberto Goizueta and Don Keogh at Coke. We saw it with Tom Murphy and Dan Burke at Cap Cities. I mean, these were magnificent companies. And I think that in both cases that I just named, I think that they accomplished far more because they had two incredible people running them who admired and worked well with the other, and they were complementary in terms of the talents they brought in many ways. It's a great way to operate. You can't will it to somebody, but I would be very surprised if a few years after my successor takes over, or maybe sooner, that there isn't some relationship, a partnership that enhances the CEO's not only achievements but the fun they have. But so far nobody's brought up in the meeting any successor to Charlie, and frankly I have a lot of trouble thinking of anybody that could be a successor to Charlie. Charlie, do you want to comment? I got to give you a chance.
I don't think the world has much to worry about. Most 90-year-old men are gone soon enough.
The canary has spoken. Okay.
My question is, why are you advising the trustee to put 90% of the cash into an S&P 500 index fund instead of into Berkshire shares? This might imply that you expect the index fund to outperform Berkshire in the future when the company is run by a new CEO and chairman. Please clarify.
Yeah, I'll be glad to clarify that. That letter didn't come from Vanguard by any chance. When I die, incidentally, all of the Berkshire shares I have at that point will go to 5 different foundations, every single share. I mean, there are no shares that have not been designated mentally and to charity. A good many have been designated specifically in numbers and all of that. And they will be distributed over the 10 years after my estate is closed. So figure over 12 years. And I tell the trustees that will be holding these shares, don't sell any Berkshire shares until they have to be sold. So my views on Berkshire, at least through 12 years after my death, are as bullish as anybody could possibly come up with. And incidentally, without those kind of instructions, anybody would say you're crazy to keep many, many billions of dollars all in one stock. I can't think of anything better to do it over those 12 years. In terms of my wife's situation, that is not a question of maximizing capital. It's just a question of total 100% peace of mind on something that cannot get a bad result. Like I said, there's way more money for her than she'll ever use. As a matter of fact, those of you who know her, may feel that I've added about 3 zeros too many. But it is not designed for her to get even larger amounts of capital. And there'll be capital left over on that part of it. On the part that I care about maximizing, I have instructed the 3 trustees to not sell a single share until it has to be sold. So that's good for 12 years after I die, as to my best advice as to what I want them to hold. Charlie?
Well, Warren is a little peculiar in the way he distributes money in the family. And I think he's entitled to do what he damn pleases.
Do I hear my children applauding? Do I hear my children applauding?
And I've never had this feeling I had to starve the family down to a few trifles. And Warren really, and Susie, when she was alive, was the same way. He really is a meritocrat. He's really quite extreme in wanting to let most of his money go back to the civilization in which it was earned. I like being associated with it.
If you were to publish the 5 highest salaries at CNBC, I don't think the salaries overall would go down the following year. So I think that's a good reason for us not publishing the salaries of say our top 10 managers of the company. At Solomon, we mentioned that a little earlier. Virtually everybody was dissatisfied with what they were getting paid, and they were getting paid enormous amounts of money. But they were disappointed, not because of the absolute amount. They were disappointed because they looked at somebody else in the place, and it drove them crazy. And as a matter of fact, the first big crisis we had in compensation was when the management made what was regarded as a secret deal with the Arb Group, as I remember, whereby John Merriweather and his crew got paid a lot of money, which I would argue they earned. I mean, I think they deserved it. But as soon as that happened, it made compensation, which had always been a terrible problem, an even greater problem because of the jealousy that broke out among the people that weren't in John Merriweather's group. I think it's very seldom that publishing compensation accomplishes much for the shareholders. In fact, you can argue that much of what's going on in corporate America, well, I would put it this way: corporate CEOs as a group would be being paid a lot less money if proxy statements hadn't revealed how much other people were getting paid. It is only human to look at a whole bunch of proxy statements and say, well, I'm worth more than that guy, and negotiate that way, and a comp committee is going to respond to that. So American shareholders are paying a significant price for the fact that they get to look at that proxy statement every year and see how much those top 5 officers are earning. Charlie?
Well, in a spirit of transparency, you're asking for something that wouldn't be good for the shareholders, and it's not going to happen unless the SEC makes it happen. We're way better off without adding to the culture of envy in America.
Yeah, there's no one that looks at, there's no CEO that looks at other proxy statements and comes away thinking I should get paid less. I mean, we haven't seen, have we ever seen that?
No.
Well, we're not old enough.
I would say that envy is doing the country a lot of harm, and our practices are envy dampeners.